Hey everyone, welcome to Direct to Disaster. So, let's talk about plug and play games. You know how I said VCR board games were a cheap alternative to gaming systems in the 1980s and early 90s? Well, this is sort of the next step up. The early 2000s saw a huge rise in both the retro game movement and car TVs. Suddenly, people wanted to play older games from their childhood and also wanted to share them with their kids on long car rides. Sure, TV games existed before this time period, such as with the TV Boy, but it was around this time that smaller, more powerful computers allowed for cheaper game systems, while storage space and processing power also became large enough to support emulation on standalone dedicated consoles. Now what cost about $100 a few years ago you could get for 15 or 20 at your local Walmart. And thanks to the success of systems like Atari 10-in-1, suddenly it seems like every company wanted on board. These things come in every shape and format you can think of. And I should know because I collect them. Yeah, you thought there was a large variety of VCR board games? I have over 80 different plug-and-play games here. Technically, any game can be considered plug-and-play as long as they connect directly to a video input and have games built into them, similarly to a Pong console of the 70s and 80s, thank you Angry Video Game Nerd. So this allows for a lot of different ways of creating a console, and I love it. In fact, I love this idea better than a normal disc or download-based video game. Okay, technically the Xbox 360 can hold a lot more memory and power than one of these, allowing for longer and better looking games, but it's the inventiveness that makes these things so much fun. These developers not only have to take into account how much storage space they have to work with, but also what controls the console will offer. They practically have to rebuild a whole new game system for each of these games. But since they're starting from scratch, there's really no limit as to how they can build them, and they push their imaginations to the max to replicate the games contained as closely as possible to their original counterparts. Sure, playing Pac-Man on a newer, more powerful console is fun, but you're still using a controller the game wasn't built for that's just tailored to any general game control layout, and you need to buy the game before you can play it. But with one of these games, their console, controller, and game all rolled into one. It's as close to the arcade you can get outside of actually buying an arcade machine. Since they can tailor these systems to fit any sort of game with any sort of control scheme, it's fascinating to see just what they can create. Sports, arcade, casino, movie tie-in, hunting, fighting, emulation, music, game show, quiz game, racing, shooting, edutainment, and even motion sensing. Unfortunately, like regular video games, not all of these are fun and enjoyable. For every Dirt Rebel MX, there's an over-elaborate power drive. For every Commodore 64 Direct-to-TV, there's a 50-in-1. And for every Mortal Kombat, there's a World Wrestling Entertainment. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but that's why we're here, to dig through the detritus and see if we can find the gems hidden within. Obviously, we're not going to have time for all of these for this video, so today I'd like to focus on a specific kind of TV game, the Guitar Hero clone. I love Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I love the feeling of jamming to my favorite songs with the volume up and feeling like I'm actually part of some of the greatest bands in history. I currently own most of the original lineup of instruments for the Xbox 360, the majority of the games, and a few other music games we may look at in the future. Now, these days, the market is considered oversaturated and passé, but there was a time when these games were big. At its peak in 2008, they were generating billions of dollars for the music and gaming industries, and encouraging millions of people to start playing real instruments. Of course, with the market being so profitable, a lot of companies started churning out their own versions for the craze, most of them just being cheap cash-ins with very subpar gameplay. Most of these were disc or download-based games for popular systems. But then there are these games, where the entire console and game is one big guitar peripheral.
So are these games any good, or were they just made for a quick buck? Let's find out.
Plug in the video cord, the first audio cord, and... Okay, what the crap?
Okay, sorry, this is something that really bugs me about these games. There's only one audio cord to plug in.
Look, normally there's 3 RCA jacks. One for the video, one for the left speaker, and one for the right speaker. And that's the case with pretty much anything TV related. This is a normal TV. This is a normal VCR DVD player. This is a normal converter for if you need to convert from an older connection to an RCA one. And this is a normal game cord from the early 90s onward. The only way you're going to get regular sound is on one of these smaller TVs with only 2 sockets. If you try to play it on any other system, all the sound comes out of only one speaker. This is okay, I guess, for games meant for older cheap TVs for a car or to stick it to a corner. But it would be nice to have the option of listening to the sound from both speakers. And I know they can pull it off, especially for games meant to be played at home. Look, 4-in-1 Casino Challenge, 3 chords. Batman Villains of Gotham City, 3 chords. Mattel Classic Sports TV game, which is basically just a collection of old handheld electronic games that really don't have a reason to be on a TV, and why does this even exist? 3 chords. Even crappy bootleg TV games, 3 chords. And yes, I'll get to these in the near future. But Guitar Hero clones meant for rocking out at high volumes? Yeah, we're not gonna bother giving you that quality.
And you might think, oh, but they designed these games 10 years ago when it was common for these things to only have 2 jacks, and they fixed it as technology improved. Well, you'd be wrong.
Because the Duck Commander hunting game came out only last year, it's meant as a game to play in your living room. And how many jacks does it have? 2! So game developers, please take note. Use 3 RCA jacks, not 2. If we're gonna listen to mono, at least make it a less disorienting mono.
Whoa, okay, I got a little off track there, but I am happy to say that there's a solution.
Buy one of these Y adapters, plug the audio cable in, plug 2 other audio cables into the other jacks, and laugh at the effort to frustrate you. So, now that that's taken care of, how are the games? First up, we have Guitar Superstar from Scenario Entertainment. Just looking at it, you can tell this is a console demanding attention. The body's in the shape of a flying V, it has a very sparkly red plastic shell, and they tried to make it look as close to a regular Guitar Hero guitar as possible. The opening screen looks like somebody spent about 2 hours with MS Paint. But it's not too bad, I guess, for a game like this. So let's select one player and start this thing. You've got to be kidding me. You know which button you need to push to select something? The strum bar. Yeah, that's right. The buttons scroll through the choices and the strum bar selects. The absolute opposite of what Guitar Hero or any gaming instinct would tell you. If they can't even get that down, I think our hopes for this game are minimal at best. So I wonder what kind of music they licensed for this game. Maybe we're shredding to Black Sabbath, or rocking out to Dragon Force, or maybe... Rocking down the highway. Okay, I looked it up, and the only song I could find was by the Doobie Brothers, but listen to both of these songs and tell me if they sound anything alike. So,
instead of filling it with songs that would make people actually want to play this thing, they instead decided to fill it with half-done, very rushed, bottom-of-the-barrel songs to further rub it in that this isn't Guitar Hero. Class act. Class act.
As you can hear, instead of actual songs with instruments and vocals, they're instead giving us some MIDI music that sounds like it should be in an old Commodore 64 or NES game. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised due to the limitations of the storage space, but would it be too much to ask for a song where the notes sync up with the music? Yep, it's one of those games. Instead of presenting a recognizable rhythm and pattern in the songs, they just pasted the notes wherever they thought they sounded good. So they're basically forcing you to memorize the song in note order in order to be able to score any points. But you know what the funny thing is? Even though these are original tracks for the game, they're trying their best to sound like licensed music. Like, here's I Love Rock and Roll. Iron Man. Purple Haze. And gee, does this sound familiar at all? Why am I not playing this instead? And the songs are so bland and so unoriginal that while filming footage for this review, I nearly fell asleep on practically every song. They just go on, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on. And are we still on this song? By the way, I just noticed this. What is up with the people in the background? No, seriously, look. It looks like they're having epileptic seizures on stage. So besides the rip-off songs and the backgrounds that give their own sprites heart attacks, what exactly is wrong with this game? The controls are horrible. And that's the worst part about talking about a bad game. It may look like I'm doing pretty badly, but unless you've played it yourself, you have no idea how bad the controls are. The hit detection is unforgiving. Unless you hit the notes on or within a few pixels of dead center and your fingers are right in the middle of the buttons, you miss them. And even then, you're likely to still miss.
What makes this even harder is the design of the guitar. Maybe it was meant for smaller fingers, but I have to reach around the top of the guitar in order to push the button. This plastic part should not be here. By comparison, let's take a look at an official guitar. See how much space I have? The buttons aren't all the way at the top, and I have enough room to move my fingers. How could a game like that get such a small detail so wrong?
Oh, and the whammy bar does nothing. No star power in this game anyway. So there's two modes to this game, free play and arcade. Free play is basically their version of quick play, where you can choose any song to play, while arcade is sort of like the Dance Dance Revolution version of arcade. They take 5 songs, which are always the same selection and difficulty. You play 3 of them, they tally up your score, and... Of course. What would a Rush knockoff game be without the mandatory spelling errors? Out of morbid curiosity, I checked the 2-player mode. You know what happens here? The first player plays a song, then the second player plays the same song, and the one with the highest score wins. Cause that's just a huge step up from the guitar battles from the games, right? I mean, who needs two players simultaneously playing against each other, scoring combos on various power-ups, to either knock each other out or to demonstrate once and for all that they're not intimidated at all by their feeble attempts to...
Okay, that's it. This is one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. This is crap. Pure, unadulterated crap. The graphics are crap. The style is crap. The music is crap. It's crap all around. And there's only one thing to do with junk like this.
What? You thought I was gonna destroy this? This cost me $20. I'm not a rock star, I'm a starving internet reviewer. I'm just gonna keep this around, put it in my shed until I need another joke.
So, that was a disappointment. What else do we have?
How about Guitar Blaster? It has the same flying V shape the last game had, but it looks better visually. The points are straighter, it's a nicer black and silver color, and the top of the neck doesn't have that plastic part getting in the way. The main problem I can see with the design is that it doesn't come with its own RCA cords. You have to buy your own and plug them in. It's like the Atari Flashback or at-game Sega Genesis. Though, since they're trying to emulate an actual game console, it makes more sense here. Just from looking at the title screen, I can tell that this game was given a lot more thought than the other game. We have a funny cartoony picture of a band playing in an alleyway with the logo flashing above and some energetic, meaty guitar music in the background. But it has the same reversed control scheme.
What's with that? Do the console versions own a copyright on how to navigate a freaking menu?
It's like playing a game where the buttons move your character and the analog sticks attack and jump. It just defies all gaming logic. The arcade mode just chooses the same songs over and over again like the other arcade mode. So let's look at the practice mode and see what songs they have to select. Let's see. My Bugs, Let's Rock Buddy, Rock and Pop Song, Bopper Song. Yeah, this is another console that just churned out some real quick meaties since they couldn't license anything. But to its credit, the songs have a lot more depth and background, and they're trying to do something original instead of loosely ripping off other songs. For the most part. I'm actually impressed with the game style. It has a very nice, drawn feel to it, like somebody sketched or sculpted these backgrounds and characters instead of rushed some computer models or sprites out the door. Okay, the characters look like some combination of a Mii avatar and a Bratz doll, but yeah, it fits the environment they created. The gameplay itself, on the other hand, is kinda lacking. Like the other game, the notes don't really match the music playing. I'll give this one credit that it has more recognizable patterns, but they almost never sync up with the music, so there's no illusion that I'm actually playing the song. On top of that, the notes are really hard to hit. Sometimes they register, sometimes they just fly by. I don't know if this is a programming error or the wear on my copy of the game, but it makes playing the game really awkward. And again, you have no reason to use the whammy bar. No reason for it to even be on the guitar. Why'd they put it on the guitar? There's another game mode called Come to Play, which is basically just a follow the leader style game where you strum the notes the other guitarist throws at you to eventually defeat him. Juvenile, but playable. Then there's Free Jam, which is just playing notes on your guitar and listening to the result, which is pointless, but it's a good way to cool down.
The game's junk, but I'll admit it's better junk than the last one. At least it has some effort put into it. Will I play it again? Well, maybe. Nah.
Another game I want to talk about is Shredmaster Jr. from Dream Gear. From the look of the title, the game looks promising, with a picture of several guitar-wielding sprites that actually look cool. There is one problem, though. The thing doesn't work. I press every single button on the face, and it goes nowhere. I tried plugging and unplugging, tried resetting and changing the batteries, I even whacked it a few times, but nothing happens. So I guess this game is just saying, sorry, I'm just too crappy to bother doing anything.
So that takes care of half the games I have in my collection, and we'll get to the rest next week. But before we end, there's one more thing I want to show you. The Disney Dance Dance Revolution game.
Technically, this isn't the guitar game, but when else am I going to talk about this thing? It's one large DDR dance pad in a flower shape, for some reason, with Mickey and friends looking about as 90s as possible. But wait, what's this? The game actually has 3 TV cords? Finally! Somebody's learning! Admittedly, there's not a whole lot to be said about this game. It's just a discount port of the arcade and PlayStation game. The menus and selection are basically the same, and the song list is just a smaller, digitized version of the real thing. But, with that said, the songs are really good. With some good bass, a great beat, and just an overall great conversion from a classic Disney song to a dance remix, and then to a MIDI. The gameplay is the most flowing and accurate we've had so far. The notes match up with the beat, and the hit detection is spot on, able to tell the difference between a perfect and a miss. The graphics are detailed and well animated for a game like this, and it's as much fun to watch the movements as it is to play the game. Admittedly, it's a little harder for me to play this since this was obviously made for somebody 15 years younger, but it's playable nonetheless. Overall, I say that if you need to keep some kids entertained and you find this at a thrift store or eBay, go ahead and buy it.
So in this episode, we covered a horrible guitar game, a not-so-horrible guitar game, a broken game, and a terrific game. That's not a guitar game, so it doesn't count. We'll get to the rest next week, so until then, thanks for watching, and see you on the next episode of Direct to Disaster.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same.
Guitar Hero on Tour Decades. Rated everyone 10 and up.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time of rock and roll. Still like that old time of rock and roll. Hi.
Unleash your inner rock star. Guitar Hero World Tour. Rated T for Teen.